The summer after her mother turned 90, author Madeline Langle brought her mother home for the last time to a farmhouse nestled among apple orchards that their family had shared for generations. It was the summer of her mother's swift descent into Alzheimer's and death. There, each evening after dinner, Madeline walked the dogs for a few minutes among the trees while her granddaughters prepared their great-grandmother for bed. One evening, when Madeline returned from her walk, her mother had been put to bed upstairs and the family had gathered in the living room to play games. Madeline went in to say goodnight to her mother, to sit with her for a while. And for a moment, her mother was herself again, and they laughed together at the dog lying on its back on the bed, feet in the air, tail wagging. But then the moment was gone. "Something's wrong," her mother told Madeline. "It's all right, Mother," said Madeline. She sat on the bed beside her mother and held her hand. "I'm scared," her mother said. "I'm scared." Madeline put her arm around her mother and held her as she held her children when they were small and afraid in the night. She said the same words, too, that she had used with her children. "Don't be afraid. I'm here. It's all right." But at the same time, she thought to herself, "What's all right? She's dying. I don't know what will happen. How can I possibly say these words?" She cradled her mother. "I do say them, though," she thought, "and I mean them. I don't understand them, but I mean them. Don't be afraid. I'm here. It's all right." The words of reassurance Madeline Langle spoke may not be the same ones you or I would use, but surely the language is the same. It is the language of faith, that even when the future looks bleak, there is hope. We say such words because it is with our hope that we comfort and bless each other, like Langle comforted her mother when she was nearing death. In the midst of great catastrophe, Jeremiah the prophet speaks the words of comfort and hope that we find in our Old Testament reading this morning. The armies of Babylon are advancing on Jerusalem. The streets of Jerusalem will soon be filled with the corpses of the people. And the prophet Jeremiah himself is imprisoned by King Zedekiah. The worst has not yet happened, but it is inevitable. The city is doomed. Jeremiah's many prophecies of God's righteous judgment on a sinful people, prophecies that had landed him in prison, are now coming true. Yet now, in the midst of catastrophe, the prophet speaks words of hope. God will restore the people of Israel. In the passage just preceding the one we read this morning, Jeremiah promises that there will be a time when there shall once more be heard the voice of mirth and the voice of gladness. And now in this passage, Jeremiah speaks of the restoration not simply of daily life, but also the restoration of the Davidic line of kings. A righteous branch will sprout from the line of David. The image is one of hope and unexpected joy, new life springing up from what looks like a dead stump. Don't be afraid. I'm here. It's all right, Jeremiah is telling the suffering people of Israel. It's all right. To a people devastated by loss, Jeremiah's prophecy offered hope. The days are surely coming, says the Lord, when I will fulfill the promise I made to the house of Israel and the house of Judah. All might seem lost, but God is still faithful. The house of David might be cut down, but God is able to bring life out of death. A branch will sprout. I can imagine Jeremiah saying to himself, I say the words, and I mean them. I don't understand them, but I mean them. But just as Madeline Langle's words of reassurance could not prevent her mother's Alzheimer, Jeremiah's words could not bring about the change he prophesied. The Davidic monarchy was not restored. Instead, over time, Jeremiah's prophecy came to be interpreted as speaking about the Messiah, an ideal ruler who would restore the kingdom at last. That is certainly the reason that this passage is included in lectionary readings for the first Sunday in Advent. The Messiah is the one for whom we wait in this Advent season, and his salvation encompasses not just Judah and Jerusalem, but the whole wide world. In this Advent season, Jeremiah's ancient prophetic words of comfort and hope were spoken again in a time of great turmoil. You and I may be experiencing relative peace and calm here in Brookfield, but we know that the world suffers, that people die when bombs explode, or hurricanes wail, or fires level sweatshop clothing factories. And we have been recently reminded that we are not so safe here in Brookfield as we might have supposed. Here, too, violence catches us unawares. And we know that while we are, for the most part, comfortably well off here at Brookfield Congregational Church, or at least getting by, there is abject poverty only a few miles to the east of us, where people scrabble to get by on the wages they earn, low-paying jobs, and where too many cannot find jobs at all. What word of hope can we offer to those who suffer in our midst? What word can we offer to those who are afraid? For some, hope is found in an imagined future when the Son of Man will come in clouds of glory, bringing the reign of justice and peace long ago prophesied by Jeremiah into being at last. The eventual return of Christ is the plain meaning of the text from Luke's Gospel that we read this morning. But there is a message behind this text that is life-giving not only for tomorrow, but for this very day. For while Luke claims in this passage that Jesus will come again someday to redeem and to save, and the prophet Jeremiah promises a Messiah who will bring truth and justice to the world, both Jesus and Jeremiah spent most of their careers reminding people that God placed humanity at the center of creation to care for each other. While we are waiting for the coming of Christ in the story of Christmas, and while we are waiting for the eventual return of the sun trailing clouds of glory, we are to be about the business of providing hope to one another. This morning we'll have such an opportunity in our Mission Festival of Gifts. Like the Magi who bore costly gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh for the king they sought, we have considerable resources here in Brookfield. As our skit reminded us this morning, we will find the king we seek, not among the well-off and well-fed, but in the habitat of the poor and the oppressed, the downtrodden and dispossessed, those who live in fear for tomorrow. To them we are charged to bring the good news. I'm here. It's all right. Don't be afraid. And we can use our resources to offer them more than just a word of hope. This is a great thing. Unlike Jeremiah, who could only offer words of hope for future salvation, unlike Madeline Langle, who could only offer words of encouragement to her dying mother, even unlike Jesus, destined to die, who could offer only a promise of eventual return and future salvation, we have tangible help to offer in this present moment. We may not be able to cure all the world's ills. We may not be able to bring peace to the Middle East, turn a hurricane's wrath from our coasts, or prevent every act of violence in our midst. But we can offer real and tangible hope to those who suffer. Don't be afraid. I'm here. It's all right. We may not completely understand these words, but we can say them and we can mean them and we can make them tangible with our generosity. It is a great gift to have more than just words to offer. So I invite your close attention as our guests this morning Tell us how we might make hope tangible, right here in our neighborhood or just down the street. And I invite Justin, I think it is. Is Justin here from the, hi Justin. Justin's here from the guest house and has a word to speak to us this morning.